My life so cappuccino, bittersweet. I'm giving everything I got. I feel so helpless.
Hey James, what are you doing, man?
Shopping at the Gelson's.
Listening to, my loud music on this amplifier we built in experimental methods the other day.
Really, an amplifier?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I don't know. My music's gotten like 10 times louder. Why don't you tell them how it works?
An audio amplifier is a device that you can plug an MP3 player or any other device into and plug headphones into the other end, and it will amplify and go past the limits that your MP3 player put on your audio.
So why do I want that?
So you can listen to your music louder, dude. Blow your speakers.
Yeah. So you want to elaborate on that? Like, I don't know. What's this like circuit you have behind you? What is that?
The first half of our circuit is a voltage divider, so that you only need to have one voltage source.
So I could like plug it into my car if I wanted to?
Anything you want. All you need is a 12-volt battery.
Nice.
So you start with the battery, and you wire it up to 2 resistors, creating a virtual ground here. That's going to be your ground point for the rest of the circuit. This is an LED to prove that you have power.
Okay, so I, know if it's actually on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then on this side of the circuit, it's split between the left and the right inputs. So we have the left side, which feeds in from an MP3 player through a resistor into an op-amp. This op-amp is used as an inverting amplifier to just flip the signal to negative. Because you run it through a negative inverting op-amp to flip it again, but this is where the actual amplification happens. So you have a 2.4 kilo ohm resistor and a potentiometer resistor you can adjust between 0 and 25 kilo ohms.
So you can like change your volume?
Yep, with just a knob.
Sweet.
And so that will run to the left side of your headphones. When it comes to the other half of the circuit, it's just a repetition. You start with your MP3 player, you run up to a 1 kilo ohm resistor through another inverting op-amp with a gain of -1, through a second inverting op-amp with a gain of -0 to -10. And the point of that is to invert your signal twice so that it stays the way you put it in. In the end, it'll let you have up to 10 times the volume you started with. Both of these will run to a jack that you can plug any standard pair of headphones into, and it'll work just fine.
Nice. So Christian, how do the op-amps work? Like, I don't know. I'm dumb.
It's 2 op-amps that we're using as inverting amplifiers. So the positive end of both op-amps is going to go to the virtual ground that we created in the first half of the circuit. The negative end of the first op-amp is going to go to either the left or right side of your MP3 player.
So do you need 2 op-amps because there are 2 different sides to the voltage coming in from the MP3 player?
Actually, because we have 2 op-amps here, you need 4 total.
Because there are 2 op-amps in each op-amp.
Right.
Right.
So you need 2 chips, which each have 2 op-amps in them to do this. So you have either the left or right. We use the left, for example, here, coming into the first side of the op-amp. You're going to have a resistor, and then a feedback resistor, and it doesn't really matter what their value is. They just need to be the same. So for the sake of example, we'll set them both equal to 1 kilo. Then on the second op-amp, you're going to need another resistor and another feedback resistor. This feedback resistor is going to be your potentiometer, and it's going to have a range of, in this instance, between 0 and 25 kilo ohms.
So you can get a gain of 10.
That's where this resistor comes in. The gain of this op-amp is defined as negative RF over RI. So the entire purpose of this op-amp was to just negate the voltage from the left side. This op-amp is where real gain comes in. Since we have a 0 to 25 kilo ohm potentiometer here, we need 1/10 of that. So 2.5 kilo ohms here to create a gain of 10, which would be optimal. So here, we will go out to the left side of your headphones. The op amp is powered by a positive 6 volts
And a negative 12.
and a negative 6 volts.
Are you sure it's not a positive 12 volts and a negative 12 volts?
I'm positive,
Okay.
because we had to split the voltage earlier on in the first half of the circuit with the LED.
Okay.
So we took that 12 volts, and this virtual ground is halfway between. So by creating that virtual ground, we have the ground at what would have been 6 volts. We're calling that 0, and up to 12 would be positive, and down to 0 would be negative 6. So both sides of this op amp are what we would call positive and negative 6 volts. In the end, the first op amp inverts the signal that you create from your first input, and the second op amp inverts and amplifies. The purpose of the first op amp is just so that your final signal will be the same sign as your first signal. And that's all it takes for one side. The other side is just doubling it up.
It's running through my nappy afro, feeling guilty, won the rapper, but the lotto ain't my motto. At my core, I'm just an apple, and they want me PC. Pay for my house, but the show is not me. More than the music, we going for that mastery overload. Da Vinci Code, comatose, to sport a beer like I'm Ovio. Got that cream, I'm an Oreo. You know how the story go, dat pip, 4 pay.